And we're live with our 11 o'clock session with super lawyer Robert Zarco. Robert, we're just going to give our viewers a couple minutes to join us.
Fantastic.
How's your quarantine been going so far personally?
Everything is doing great. Thank God. I've been very responsible as best I can, considering that I represent a lot of franchisees and hoteliers in the restaurant and hospitality industry, and many of them are in great despair. And as a result, it's ringing, off the hook, which in turn is causing a lot of work for us. So I'm trying to balance being safe and being careful. I am compelled to come into the office, but the way that this office is laid out, we are at least 20, 30 feet away from everybody.
Fantastic. Well, we're sure thrilled to have you with us today. Looking forward to a great session.
I'm looking forward to participating and enjoying this webinar, April.
Well, thank you again for being with us. So we're going to go ahead and begin. Robert Zarco has been at the forefront of protecting the legal rights and interests of clients in the USA and overseas for over 30 years. Handling complex franchise, commercial, and business legal matters and trials, federal and state courts, as well as arbitration and litigation, is a very active trial lawyer in franchise, hospitality, dealership, distributorship, trademark, commercial, and real estate disputes. Robert Zarco is frequently awarded distinctions, including Lawyer of the Year in 2020 for franchise law by Best Lawyers of America, Top Deal Makers of the Year for Real Estate Land by Better Business Review, Legal Eagle by Franchise Times, and South Florida's Top Lawyers by the Miami Herald. His firm is repeatedly listed in the U.S. News and World Report amongst best law firms by Best Lawyers of America. He has testified as an expert in over 17 separate legislative jurisdictions and frequently appears on national television and in the media as an expert commentator, as well as a tremendous partner in Haute Living and a great friend. Welcome, Robert Zarco. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure, April. I always enjoy the privilege of being a Haute Living partner, and hopefully I can shed some wonderful insight and information to those that are watching here today.
Thank you, Robert. How did you keep your company going through the quarantine?
Well,
let's start there.
It was not difficult, frankly, because the way my office is set up, I have individual, very large offices for all of my lawyers, and the staff is all set up in areas that are like separate pods, so they do not necessarily fall within the social distancing violation, guidelines. Everybody's at least 10 feet apart. The lawyers are in separate offices. When we have meetings, we have large conference rooms. Everybody sits at least 3 chairs apart from each other. But I will tell you that during the 20 or 30 days that we had really many of these issues that were of concern to us, a lot of our people, did not come to work. We have about 35 employees, and we only had about a skeleton crew of about 10 to 12 that came on a daily basis. I was here every single day. The captain of the ship has to be, running and operating the ship. And the rest of the people did a wonderful job operating from their home and working offline. So utilizing all kinds of technical features that we have, we were able to see each other as well as staying in touch with our clients.
Thank you, Robert. You have a very broad client base. What did you tell clients that expected their litigation to go through somewhat quickly to do if the case was being held up?
Well, frankly, a lot of the clients that were involved in litigation had their own issues, current, more pressing issues, which was maintaining their current businesses operating in light of what was going on. So depending on the nature of the business, for instance, if you had a restaurant, you had to close down, but they were looking and seeking for alternative forms of distribution of the products. whether it be through takeout, whether it be through delivery, whether it be through mail, depending on the nature of what the products were. But it was very, very difficult. In the hotel business, you had occupancy going from 85 or 90% down to 4%, 5%. Meanwhile, there were a lot of issues that each one of these businesses were dealing with because they had obligations to landlords. And then, so what happened with the rent? If you were a franchisee, what happened to your franchise or obligations, such as paying royalties, paying marketing and advertising fees? And if you're in the hotels, what do you do in terms of running the hotels? Some hotels stay open, but they're not operating at any kind of level that they can financially sustain themselves. So it was very, very difficult. So what I would tell them is, look, guys, the litigation right now, the courthouses are closed in terms of having active live hearings. But what we were doing is continuing to run, the discovery, the exchange of information. We were having a lot of Zoom calls with opposing lawyers. We were having Zoom hearings, telephone calls, a lot of FaceTiming clients throughout the country and throughout the world. So we made it happen. The technology is not perfect. Frankly, it's very frustrating. You have poor connections at times, or you have situations where the impact, if you're taking a deposition with a witness, is not the same as if you're there. We did the best we could, but we made it happen.
Always. Thank you, Zarco. How has the CARES Act helped to alleviate businesses in your estimation?
The CARES Act was frankly a very much needed injection of cash and fuel into businesses. When you have a lot of employees furloughed and you have relationships with employees that you want to keep, but your business just cannot afford to be able to operate. It became a situation where it was a much needed generation of income in order to help the business sustain itself. Now, because the CARES Act had limitations with regard to, initially it was 75% had to be used for employees and 25% would be used for other items. Now it's been changed to 60% for employees and 40% for other elements, and it's actually been extended from 8 weeks to 24 weeks, which makes a huge difference in terms of how the money's going to be utilized. I know that it has been phenomenal in terms of a tool and assistance provided by the government to keep the business afloat.
Thank you, Robert. Have any of your clients been denied the funds?
Yes. First of all, some of them have been denied the funds because they either took too much time or they delayed the filing or did not do it properly. Others did not qualify. They had more than 500 employees. Those individuals would not qualify. Others, the banks ran out of money during the first phase quickly. That created a lot of stress for some individuals. And the other ones during the second phase were able to get money, but there are still many of our clients that did not get money, and they are going through some very difficult time.
Have you been able to assist any of those individuals through that process?
Oh, we've assisted a lot of individuals. Anything, we became a one-stop shop on and everything that was going on in terms of the relationship with the client. For instance, with regard to their personal legal issues, we dealt with the personal business issues. I have an extraordinary financial background. I have a degree in economics. I was a financial analyst for General Motors. I have 95% of my MBA. All my cases in business, financial issues and financial concerns. So I was able to provide a lot of, believe it or not, financial advice. And as a businessman who owns several businesses, I'm also able to provide that kind of input. So I became a jack of all trades and master at many because that's what the clients needed. Our business became, in essence, essential during this time in order to be able to uphold the franchise, the businesses.
The current situation aside, I mean, to me, looking at your business and what you do, that's always been a tremendous value add that you bring to the table with anyone hiring you, is that you have that entire background and you're really able to come in and assist. So in this time, that's has to have been incredible for your clients.
April, you've known me for a long time. You know that I have a tremendous passion for what I do. I love being a lawyer. I love helping my clients. I could have retired 15 years ago. I won't. In fact, I just doubled down and signed a 20-year lease a year ago and built out a whole new law firm, 50% larger than the space I had before. And I did it because I just love being here. I'm not one of those senior partners at a law firm that, after doing this for 35 years decides, well, let the younger people do it. No, I'm there and try almost every case in this law firm.
They're very, very hands-on, and you love people.
Yes, absolutely, I do. And I have fantastic relationships with my clients because of the fact that they see that we care. I'm available 24/7. I have calls on Saturday and Sunday, like no tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow is Saturday, and I'm going to be here all day. And Sunday, I'm going to be here all day because I have a major 3-day deposition starting on Monday that I'm personally taking with the assistance of some of my partners. So I have a, and that's why I do it, and think I do it pretty well.
I mean, I would say one of the best in the world, so I would say so.
Thank
What cases have you seen emerge in the last couple months that were not in existence before, and we're seeing at a much lower rate than prior?
Well, when the economy is doing well and businesses are flourishing, what happens is that the business owners are very forgiving of lack of performance of some of their contractual obligations by the opposing side. So for instance, if the landlord is not necessarily properly taking care of the facility, or the franchisor is not providing the appropriate level of services, or the franchisor puts a store in too close proximity to an existing location and the franchisee is losing money, or in any other commercial transaction, we have two partners in a business and one partner decides that he's sick and tired of his other partner taking advantage of him. During good times, you kind of let it slide because everybody's making money. But when tough times come around the corner where every dollar is important, people become much less tolerant of the other side's inability, or not inability, actually, sometimes failure to perform. So I have found that cases that would not have been filed, a year ago, all of a sudden people are swarming our office that they want action taken because they do not have the luxury of allowing the other side to not live up to its obligations.
Thank you, Zarco.
And in that regard, in this particular economy, we have a lot of disputes between landlords and tenants. I'm sure everybody understands that, where you have the conflicting interest between the tenant that is unable to pay rent and has been unable to pay rent because their business have been closed down, balancing against a landlord's interest where the landlord has obligations to pay mortgage payments, to their banks. You have situations like that. One of the things that has, in essence, emerged from this for me is I remember I was at home, relaxing during this whole situation, thinking, wow, my clients are in trouble. I mean, what are all my restaurant owner clients going to do? What are my hotel clients going to do? What are my small business clients going to do? I said, how are they going to be able to recoup? The government's talking about, all of these financial stimuluses. And then I said, wow, what is happening with the insurance companies? There's something called business interruption insurance. And I said, I bet you that there is an angle there. So all of a sudden I decided to start doing tremendous amount of research, because whenever I latch on something, I'm like a pit bull. I latch on it and I figure it out. And I spent a few days researching, realizing that there were a lot of unique legal arguments that could be made to counter the denials of these insurance companies when claims are being made against their business interruption policies. And I realized that while many of these insurance companies were blanketly denying claims because in their view, well, your policy had an exclusion because there was, let's say, no physical damage, or because there's a pandemic exception. Not all of them have the same language. What ended up happening is that I said, there is an answer. You have to understand that the world that I come from, I represent the little guys, the franchisees against franchisors. All of those contracts are written very much in favor of the franchisor. They're extremely one-sided. Yet I have made a tremendous business out of being successful in winning in cases like this, because my very creative legal arguments have allowed us to pierce those contracts. So I'm saying, if I've been already able to pierce bulletproof franchise agreements, how can I not pierce insurance contracts? And I then started focusing on it and came up with all sorts of arguments that now the insurance companies that we are dealing with have become rather concerned. I don't necessarily publicize my theories because I like to make sure that the guy that creates it is the one that argues it, because the one who copies it doesn't understand how it originated and how it would work. But we are very confident. So we have some insurance companies that are already talking to us about it because they're afraid that I'm going to become precedent setting and make new case law on the insurance side, as I have been doing over the years in franchising. So I'm very excited about it. You know, I'm representing a lot of major hotels, major businesses, franchisees that have 100, 200 restaurants, hotel chain. I mean, really very exciting. And all of a sudden, as a result of COVID, it seems like I've developed another new division here in the law firm.
A game changer.
You know, some people call me the game changer. There was an article actually that came out in your magazine calling me the game changer. And I'm proud of it because, you know what, I do set out to be a game changer. You can ask a lot of judges that I go in front of. My approach, my performance, the way I argue is very different. It's not your typical in-the-box black letter law argument. They're very creative. They're out of the box, and most of the time they work. So maybe I am a game changer in the insurance industry. I'm proud of it, and will pursue it because I really think it's right. I am not telling you that, you know, contracts between two commercial entities, meaning the insured and the insurer, are not to be honored. However, there are provisions in the contracts that are inconsistent with other provisions, because when you have an exclusion that is added to a contract, the people that do it are the transactional lawyers or the business people, but they don't necessarily have the trial lawyers look at these insurance contracts when these provisions come in and don't realize that there was another provision in there that would give them coverage. When they put the exclusion, they're focusing on that, but now don't recognize that there's a conflict between the existing provision that was never removed, the exclusion that comes in, and now you have an ambiguity. And the law says that when there's an ambiguity in a contract between two people, and especially when one has much more power than the other, the ambiguity is construed and interpreted against the draft, which in this case would be the insurance company. So I'm looking forward to a lot of exciting litigation over the next 2 or 3 years on the many, many cases that we have gotten.
Best in the game. What do you hope business owners and your existing clientele takes away from this experience?
Hope. I think that franchisees, small businesses, anyone who's listening to this needs to have hope and rely on hope and believe in hope that things are going to be just fine. If you look at the stock market today, because of the unexpected reduction of the unemployment in this country, which is still currently high, but frankly, it's a lot lower than I thought it was going to be as a result of what's happened. There is hope that the future is going to be much brighter. I think our economy is going to come back much stronger. This, you know, I'm a big believer, and you've heard me profess this, April, that the old adage, everything happens for a reason, rings true. And I am not one of these guys that just said, oh, everything happens for a reason. No, I believe it. I believe if right now while we're talking to you, that whole cabinet right there is full of glassware and expensive stuff falls, I will not even react. I'll continue talking to you. For some reason, it happened. And guess what? The new cabinet's going to be much nicer, better, and stronger. So these are the way that things happen. COVID has had a very positive effect on our economy. Yes, short term, a devastating effect. But long term, think about all of the technological advancements and progress, okay, that have become, available and have become put into action. This whole thing with Zoom and the technology, people started straying into it back and forth. Oh, let's try it now. Let's go the old way. But necessity is the mother of invention. And as a result of COVID, there's been a lot of necessity that has been created for people to survive. People are now realizing that there's different ways of running their business. People can be more efficient. Maybe they need less personnel. Maybe they need more personnel. Maybe they need more machinery. Maybe they need to redesign their offices to make them more efficient. Maybe when you go to a restaurant and now you don't have people sitting 22 inches away from you, maybe the customer enjoys that experience, much more. Maybe, you know what? Maybe there's just not that much more traffic on the highway. Maybe people are working more out of their home and enjoying their dog, their children, their family, and enjoying the house they pay so many property taxes for, and yet they're able to do a little bit of both. There's a major change in America in terms of how people run their personal lives and how people run their businesses. I will tell you though, this pandemic at this level was extremely unexpected and unforeseen. Yes, we foresee hurricanes, but there's not a hurricane that is the size of the United States. There's not a tornado that's the size of the United States that destroys the entire, economic system, or at least damages it. I think that everybody who's running a business now needs to, in the future, expect the unexpected, expect the unforeseen. Look and analyze what were the things that really hurt you the most now, and make sure you plug that hole in the dam later. For instance, if you were over leveraged, if you borrowed too much money, if you put too many eggs in one basket, if you were cash poor, if you were in a business where you said, you know what, I don't want to worry about takeout business, takeout food. I don't want to worry about doing home delivery. I don't worry about the liability of the drivers and, and whether the food's going to be perfect or not the right temperature when it gets to my customer. Well, maybe you should have a takeout menu that is more suitable, more conducive to having people eat at home, but still source the product from your business. Maybe you should have deliveries set up in a way where instead of you having your own drivers, you subcontract out that task to another company where you will not do that. You can also expand your customer base now because of the fact that people have not been coming to your businesses. How do you sell to your customers? Well, there's been a tremendous expansion and an explosion of online business, online customers. I found it interesting when these gym classes and yoga classes and all this stuff is virtual. I said, wait a second, part of it is being there with the machines. Well, some people are using, 1 gallon milk jugs to use, to do curls, and they were using rubber bands, to do, the arm swings. It's really, very cool. And as a former wrestler, where I used to do exercise with whatever I would pick up. I walked the court with my trowel bag and I curl it as I'm walking with my trowel bag. So I relate to that. But all of a sudden you have these yoga classes and these instructors and these trainers that are running all these services online. And now I don't know what's the name of it. But there's one where there's like 20,000 people, 30,000 people watching this. And it's these two guys here in South Florida that put this workout thing on TV. And all of a sudden, they're going to be the next billionaires because they're going to just do it out of their living room and they're going to have 5 million people working out with them. It's been fantastic in terms of promoting innovation.
Thank you, Zarco. Thank you for all of that. All true words. Why do you think you know, knowing you for so many years, decades after decades long, you know, friendships and relationships and business associates, why do you think so many businesses turn to you and individuals?
I think it's actually easy. I think that to respond to that question is very easy. I am extremely honest.
Yep.
And most importantly, extremely straightforward. I call it the way I see it. I tell the clients when they have messed up in terms of their case. I tell them when they have messed up in terms of being the cause of the problem. Whenever there is a dispute, I always tell their client that they are partially responsible for what happened. And they say, how can I be partially responsible? I am not the one that stole the money from my business. It was the other guy. I say, yes, but you're partially responsible. You know why? Because you picked him as your partner. You did not do the right, profile analysis. You didn't look into the fact that he had screwed over 20 other people. He sold your bill of goods and you didn't do your research. You relied. There is always some level of responsibility that we have. When people realize that, they become more realistic in terms of how it is that they should approach the problem. I tell them what their options are. I help them out because, I don't, I have a very solid financial, arrangement here where my hourly rate is not low. But I consider them one of the best in the country, and I don't apologize for it. But I understand and am empathetic that these people that come to me because somebody else did something to them may not necessarily be able to afford. So what I do is I customize and create financial fee arrangements for my clients. And many of them are contingency based. Many of them are reduced hourly. They are fixed projects. They are work now, pay later. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. Remember, I told you, I could have retired 15 years ago. Money is not the driver here. But I do think that it's not fair that I do everything for free, because I do provide a lot of support for a lot of families that work here and people that work here that support their own families. So we have to get paid. I have my own financial obligations to my own family and my children as my family expands. But the fact that we think out of the box in terms of everything, when a case comes in, some of my young lawyers come, oh my God, Robert, this case, 100 million, 200 million, 300 million, well, relax. It's no different than a $2 million case. It's no different than a $100,000 case. It's just a lot of them. If you have a chicken, you eat the chicken. If you have an elephant, you can't swallow the whole elephant. So I take a toe at a time. And I will consume the elephant. That's why I don't get alarmed about anything. No case is too big. And that's how, we work here. And I have a tremendous relationship with my partners. This is a family. This is a very, very strong family unity in this litigation boutique. My number 2 guy's been with me 27 years. My number 3 guy's been with me 26 and a half years. My number 4 guy has been with me 25 years. My number 5 guy has been with me 21 years. My number 6 person's been with me 19 years. My CFO has been with me 25 years. And then on down. I must be doing something right. And we're all doing something right that we have been able to stay together, through thick and thin. Thank God it's been, all great. And we've done extremely well throughout. But I think it's because of our state of mind, the way we approach things. So this is the kind of feeling of camaraderie and friendship and support that we provide the clients. When my clients come over here, and many, obviously want me to be very involved, and I am, but I introduce them to my family. And when I said, listen, this is not just a young guy, or a young woman that just started, a week ago or a year ago, and they're responsible for your case. Oh, no, I have tiers. I have myself is always on the top. Then I have another senior partner. Then I have a junior partner, and then I have 1 or 2 associates. And you may think, wow, that must get very expensive.
It doesn't, because I worked out a budget for my client where it doesn't matter how many people I stack it with, it doesn't cost them anymore. And interestingly enough, even though my opponents, are big companies, I fight the biggest companies, the biggest law firms in the country, it doesn't faze me. It's really funny. I just find out that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. That old adage really works. You got, I love going to court with me and one of my partners, and then there's 9 lawyers on the other side. It is incredible how cool it is to watch how none of them know what the other one's doing. They're all distorted and disorganized and disjointed, and that's how we win. It's really interesting. And to me, the bigger, the better. The more people in the courtroom, the better the audience. So the reality is that the clients, when they come here, they feel protected. And one thing I tell them all, when they, because they come in here distraught, most of them in the litigation cases. We're doing a business deal, they're not coming in distraught. They want a guy who's going to give them legal advice, but understands business consequences arising from that legal advice. A lot of lawyers give legal advice, but they don't have the business background, the financial background to understand the repercussions and consequences of that legal advice. We do. I said, look, legally, this may sound better. Legally, this is easier, but the consequences to your business are such. I can't tell you how many cases I have turned away where a client comes in and says, Mr. Zarco, I've got this case, this franchisor did this to me and it was wrong. And I look at it and I said, yep. He goes, and I lost $150,000 on it. And I said, wow, that's not nice. I can understand your concern. And I said, all right, I appreciate that. Tell me a little bit about your business. Tell me more. I want to hear it. And I've been doing this. I started from nothing. And over the years, the prior management was great. And now I own 52 locations. And now I'm making $3 million. And I said, look, this is not a continuing thing, the $150,000. If we go after them for the $150,000, somebody's going to become emotionally charged, and they may not be so nice to you in your other 52 locations. My advice is, since it's not a repetitive event, somebody made a mistake. If it was intentional, well, that person may no longer be there soon. Forget about it. Just forget about it. If something gets worse, then come back. I don't immediately say, no, let's take a case, let's go after them, because there are consequences to that. You're going to burn a relationship that you've had for 30 years for $150,000 when you're making $2-3 million a year, or $1 million a year. Or what happens if you're only making $300,000 a year? They took you for $150,000, but you have no other alternative. And all of a sudden, because these agreements are written one-sided, as I stated earlier, every franchisor and every franchisee in this country, because of these 40-page documents, are in breach, are in technical breach of their franchise agreements somewhere, somehow. And if the franchisor decides that now you're a thorn in their side, they will look for that kernel in the agreement, and they're going to start trying to take aggressive acts. And you may say, well, that's a bad motive. Well, the law says that bad motive is irrelevant as a matter of law if there is a separate and independent basis for a breach. And because in these agreements, there's always some kind of breach. You didn't turn in a financial document on time. You walk into your restaurant and an employee did not wash his hands when he crossed from one room to the other. There was cross-contamination of food. There's a cracked tile on the floor. The furniture is worn out and has a tear. All of these are elements of breaches. And some are material, some are not. But even if they are not, a franchisor could easily file a claim against you, run you through the litigation mill, and when you're making $300,000 or $200,000 or $100,000, you cannot afford it. And then when you come to me, okay, and I say, you have this situation, leave it alone, because you're going to wake up a sleeping giant. And if you lose your $300,000 or $200,000 or $100,000 income, you are done. If you're terminated, and they have validity for terminated because you've been less than a stellar franchisee, then you've got a lot more to lose. So I'm honest with them. I don't need the work. We are in such high demand that from all over the country. Remember, my client base is the world. Yep. Largest franchise practice in the world. So I get cases every 2 minutes. There's a case in here. So I have to be totally honest with my clients and tell them, look, this is what you have to do. And if it comes to the world of franchising, or licensing or distributorships or dealerships, if I give them an advice, I tell them, if you want to get a second advice, go ahead, but it's going to be wrong. Because what I'm telling you is the way it is. I have too many years in too many systems, involved in over 550 brands, 23 countries, 44 states, to not have the experience to be able to tell you what to do. And I tell them, where are you going to find a lawyer now, especially in the business interruption world, that has a tremendous amount of trial experience, tremendous amount of financial experience, tremendous amount of experience, and now has all of this insurance experience? Find me the other person. No one has yet. So that's how we become the game changer that you have described. And it all happens because I'm surrounded by a tremendous, wonderful group of partners and lawyers and staff members and employees that make my operation run in a way that best services my clients. And that's why they keep coming back.
Thank you, Zarco. I have to agree with everything you said. Great work over there, great team, best in the game.
And beautiful offices. They love working here because the offices now are over the top. You got to come and see this. You saw them.
Yeah, I've been out there. Tremendous. And you were saying, a lot of my team members, a lot of your new team members, you're like, their offices are better in a lot of cases in their own apartments, and they don't want to leave and they just want to stay here.
Well, the nice thing is that when the opponents come here, and we have a pretty big reputation, and when they come in, they look at these offices, they go, okay, these guys have it in a contingency. It's evident this law firm's not running out of money anytime soon, so we better take this operation very seriously. And that works really well against a giant law firm to think, oh, we've got 2,000 lawyers, we're going to squash that firm.
Yeah.
Not happening. We're here for the end run, all the way through the end game and through the day of trial.
And I personally don't see anyone matching your gusto and the passion. And I mean, you're down to the end.
I told you, I love my work. Love it. I don't even consider it work. I love it.
The best. Going back over to law and to precedent based on what's happened and what we've all gone through, what state and federal insurance law changes do you see on the horizon?
Insurance, are you talking about insurance primarily?
Insurance law, correct.
In an insurance contract, you have two commercial businesses doing a deal together. And therefore you have the insurance company and you have the insured. And, the Constitution talks about how you have to honor and respect contractual relationships. I think that this whole pandemic issue is going to weigh heavily on these insurance companies. If there are cases that pierce through the veil of protection that they think they have through some of the exclusions, it's going to be a real problem. A problem where the government may have to come in and help bolster financially the insurance companies so the insurance companies can then pay off the appropriate valid claims. And I qualify that because if people think that the United States government is going to be able to come in and it's going to be add just another few more $1 trillion in debt, okay, to just pay anyone who owns a small business, that's not happening. If you look at the amount of losses, small business losses, I think the number was $45 billion a month. $45 billion a month. Wow. Can you imagine what that number translates into in a year? Okay, and you multiply that out, you're looking at 600 billion, a trillion. Just adding this as another burden on behalf of and on top of our current national debt, it's a very precarious situation for the government. That's not happening. Anybody who thinks, oh, let me sit around and wait for the government to write me a check because I have a business interruption insurance policy that specifically excludes everything and there are no holes or no arguments, that's not going to happen. The government is not going to rewrite these existing contracts. What will happen is if there is a liability found against the insurance companies, if a claim is valid because there's ambiguity, because the provisions were not properly written, or things of that sort, then at that time, the government makes come in as a backstop. Remember something, all of these stimulus packages that the government has put together, in essence, serve the same role as business interruption, because that's what they're doing. All this PPP money is money that's coming in to put up, to plug the hole of the financial losses that these businesses have sustained. So that's already the government acting in good faith to provide business interruption financial assistance. So anyone who who thinks I'm going to sit home and wait for the government to write me an insurance check, not happening. The money's not going to go from the government to you. The money would go as a backdrop fund, like an insurance fund for insurance companies to go to in the event they are bankrupt or rendered insolvent as a result of an inordinate amount of valid claims. Now, what's going to happen going forward? The legislation is not going to, I think, require insurance companies to cover a pandemic. It's just not going to require it. For instance, are the insurance companies now required to provide hurricane coverage in South Florida? No. In fact, there are many insurers that are refusing to insure for hurricanes in South Florida, or for tornadoes elsewhere, or for earthquakes somewhere else. Some insurers are saying, we are not sizable enough. We don't have the financial wherewithal or the funding in place or the cash reserves to be able to address a situation like this. Because of what happened with COVID, which was completely unexpected, unforeseen, to the level and magnitude that it occurred, coupled with how the government reacted to it. See, that's where you have here a perfect storm. Okay, you have a perfect storm. You have the COVID that created its own problem and fear that affected people's behavior, coupled with the government imposing lockdowns and stay-at-home orders, which exacerbated the problem associated with the onslaught of COVID. So, and this is countrywide. And even if you're in South Florida or you're in some other city and your particular business was not locked down for whatever reason, the supplier of your product that manufactures it in China or manufactures it in South Dakota, he's shut down. So that then freezes your business. You have to, this is very complex. I think that right now people need to implement self-help procedures. They need to semi-insure themselves. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't over-leverage yourself. Don't stay cash poor. You know, there was a formula, that was very common in the business world, which was you need to have enough cash to run your business for about 6 months. You need to have enough personal money to live your personal life for at least 6 months, so that in case something happens, you're okay. Today, you now have a situation where 6 months is not sufficient. We've already been at this. We're now in June. This started all in mid-February. Okay, so you have February, March, April, May. You're already 5 months into it. So for those people who followed the 6 month rule, you've got 30 days left. But why don't you go to the new restaurants that just opened up? And they're ghost towns. Go to malls and they're ghost towns. Now we have the other issues with what's happened, recently with the riots. That's yet another element that has to be factored in that now has extended the economic impact that was triggered by COVID exacerbated by the government lockdowns, and now putting the cherry on top with the riots that have caused disruption in the country. So you need to plan ahead. People are going to become much more conservative. But interestingly enough, people's human reactions and human instincts, also have caused changes in ways that you would not have expected. For instance, I have lots of clients that sell, remember, I represent auto dealerships and boat dealerships. And I was talking to, two guys that represented two different cities, Rolls-Royce and Bentley dealerships. And I said, man, you guys must be getting killed, because who the hell is going to buy a luxury item? And they said, how about if I tell you that we've had among our best months now? I go, are you kidding? I go, why? You know what people's reactions are? Oh my God, with the onslaught of a COVID, another corona, another disease, the apocalypse could occur. A meteor could come in, from Mars, whatever. I better spend my money now, and I might as well go out with a bang. And if it happens, at least I drove my Rolls Royce and I've wanted for 20 years. That's the attitude. Some people are going the other way. So you have a completely opposite spectrum of reaction to this. You have those that are like going to hoard cash. I'm one of those that's hoarding cash just to make sure, we have a lot of people that I'm responsible for. But I will also tell you that on some things that I was holding off on buying personally, I'm saying, what the hell? I might as well, because I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. And it may not be a disease. I may have a heart attack. You don't know. You don't know. And this has created a lot of personal awareness in people, not only in terms of business-wise, but introspectively. You have to consider in your business, okay, where am I getting my product from? Okay, I have a particular relationship with a particular vendor, a particular supply chain individual, for the last 20 years. Do you have a backup? Do you have an alternative one? I know, well, mine's in California. Well, maybe you should get someone from the East Coast, because if California ends up going into the ocean because of a ginormous earthquake, you need to protect yourself. So what people need to do now is plan for alternatives. Get backups into place. Even if they're a little more money, it's okay to feed them a little business so that the relationship is there in the event that the unforeseen and the unexpected occurs.
Thank you, Zarco. Thank you for all of that. Going back to the game changer, you're known as the game changer in many verticals. You did the Four Seasons deal here in Miami. Are you working on it? Or have you seen any other luxury product like that on the horizon for the Miami real estate market?
The Surf Club Four Seasons is a project like no other because of the expansiveness of the size of the property. You have over 850 linear feet on the ocean, which is now also adjacent to another project that the Fort Partners developers are probably going to be rolling out in the future, but they control the property, which is another 200 or 300 feet more. So that property really is the top of the market, in my view, in terms of luxury, convenience, class, history. Remember, you have a wonderful a project there that was designed by Richard Meyer from New York, a well-known architect, with the assistance and substantial contribution by our local architect, Kobe Carter. And that project, which is very modern in basis, coupled with the old 1920s surf club in the middle, really creates a unique environment. I don't know that I have seen any other project here that's going to be at that level. However, there are other wonderful projects by many wonderful developers that are doing a great job in really elevating the quality of our South Florida living experience, both on the very high end as well as in the medium level, and many that are investing in apartments. South Florida is now going to become even much more attractive to the Northeasterners. There's a tremendous wave of people from New York that are looking to and are investing in some of the more luxury products here in South Florida. While the real estate market was questionable in terms of the impact that this whole COVID pandemic and the lockdowns was going to have on South Florida real estate market, my experience and my understanding from speaking to a lot of the high-end real estate brokers is that the uber rich, the ultra high-end luxury homes are selling. Yep. In very, very high demand, which means that the people that from New York that are used to paying, $5,000 a square foot for property are finding that buying a home here for $2,500 a square foot or $3,000 a square foot, living in essence in a resort, where they're on the water, they have South Florida weather, they have, they feel like it's a wonderful place, to come and relax and retire in, they're moving down. And most significantly, the tax advantage. Let's not forget that in South Florida, you don't have city tax and you don't have state tax. And all these people coming in from all these other states are looking to invest in South Florida as a result. And you don't have the New York state tax, California state tax, city tax for New York City, and city tax for LA. And that goes, throughout the country. So I predict that, just based on what I know, I've been a long-time resident here in South Florida, actually all my life, that there's going to be a lot of immigration coming from people living in the United States, coming down to South Florida. I mean, my office is all glass looking out the window, and I can understand why I don't want to leave here. It's the same reason why people who don't have this want to come here.
Thank you, Zarco. We have a question from a viewer. What year are you buying the Miami Dolphins and turning it around? The people have spoken and Miami needs the game changer. So let's hear it.
I was the personal attorney for Coach Shula. In fact, his 90th birthday party, the last party that he had was at my home. I'm the one that threw that party. It was a surprise party where I had Coach Shula and his beautiful wife, Marianne Shula. And we invited, as a surprise to Coach, he had no clue. He thought he was just coming to my house for dinner because I made him dinner frequently. And I had the entire 1972 perfect season team there. And so I'm really in tight, with the Dolphins, and I own a suite at the stadium as well. My buying the Dolphins, I don't know. I've actually been approached to consider, investing in it. But right now, I'm not so sure. Believe it or not, I go to the football games. I don't really watch them. You've been in my suite. You know that all I do is socialize with all my friends and have a good time. I'm not into the sport itself or the sport. I don't know. My ego doesn't drive me to have to own a sports team. Maybe I'll do it one day as another element, but not right now. I don't know. I really don't know.
All right. Wait and watch, right? See what you do. Going back over some landmark cases, what case have you been the most proud of? You've had so many.
That's a tough one. That really is a tough one because there have been so many game-changing cases. From the original one that really changed my life, which was a case that my former partners, when I was a non-equity young lawyer at a firm, told me was the worst case they've had and that I was wasting my time on it and that the case was worth $50,000 against a major franchisor. And then as a result of some conflict of interest and some concerns that I had with some improper behavior by some of the partners, I left the firm, or actually was almost pushed out of the firm, to be frank with you, because I would not stand for it. That's when I started my own law firm. And the partner specifically told me, you can take this piece of crap case with you. And I took it. And it was worth $50,000. $5 million later, the client was very happy, made new law that became legal precedent throughout the country. And that started the wave of the world of franchising and licensing and dealership law for me. Throughout that time, that was 30 years ago. I've been in my own law firm 29 years, I think it is, no, about 29 years. And throughout that time, you know, you get involved in thousands of cases in over 550 brands, like I told you earlier, you know, 25, 23 countries, over 40 states. There's a lot of law that's made. But there are several. I mean, we had a landmark case representing Don King, where we were able to, my partner and I, froze a fight. A fight never happened before. I got an injunction to stop a boxing fight using extremely creative legal arguments when 3 major law firms, 2 from New York and 1 from DC, told Don King he had no chance. And he came here and just because it was the coolest thing in the world to represent Don King, you know? He comes in with his hat, you know, hair all the way up, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And my partner, you know, Alex Brito and I really went at it, and we got it done. That was a cool one. A big franchisor case that I told you, the one 30 years ago, you know, was really the one that started the whole trend. There was a recent one a year and a half ago, El Pollo Loco, Bryant versus El Pollo Loco in California. That was a case that was, it was in essence lost. It was actually dismissed by the lawyer. The lawyer who had the case dismissed it after charging the client $840,000 and telling him on the eve, not on the eve, on the weekend before the trial is going to start, that the client should dismiss the case because they're not going to win, and that there's going to be an attorney's fees obligation that they're going to have to pay to the other side when they go to trial and they lose. I don't know why he didn't tell them that earlier before he charged them and they paid $840,000. But I went ahead and gave a speech in California, and the clients flew there to watch me speak. And after they heard me speak, they said, "You're our guy. Is there anything you can do?" And I'll never forget that. It was very traumatic for me because I'm a really happy guy all the time. When I'm hearing this disaster story, not only what the franchisor did to the franchisee, but what the franchisee's own lawyer did to the franchisee, I decided I was going to take it on a contingency. I just had to. I just thought I had no choice. I said, God has blessed me with a wonderful practice and a wonderful financial position. If I don't use it, you know, to help people that really need it, then what's it all worth? And I took it on a contingency. And within 10 months after, I got my partner and I, Robert Salkowski, and I got a verdict on new case law. We made new law for about $8.8 million within attorney's fees of $1.7 million awarded in our favor, even though I had it on a contingency, but my time, you know, was recognized by the court. In fact, the court not only gave me every dollar that I asked for, but actually told the opposing lawyer that the reason that my hourly rate was justified, even though it was double of what their rate was, because 1, I won, and 2, he had never seen a lawyer who was more well-versed and more well-prepared to argue about and, in essence, elicit economic and financial and damages testimony better than even the financial experts did in the case. So that was a wonderful result. And listen, I don't want to take everybody's time. If anybody who wants, they can call me and I'll tell them as many. There's a lot of them. And that's why I love doing it. And I love doing it not so much because of the money, okay, but because I help people and I change people's lives. So when you call me a game changer, I think it's more appropriate that it be a life changer, because I change my clients' lives. When many of my clients come to me, I had one client who came to me that was about to commit suicide. He actually showed me his policy that covered suicide. I freaked out. It was like, talk about a burden that somebody said. He said, "If you don't win my case, I'm going to commit suicide. And here's the policy which shows." Well, that's pretty heavy duty. And he met me in Las Vegas, because he was from California, to give me the retainer. And I told him, I said, "I need a retainer. He's going to bring me a check." And he brings me cash, because I don't know, he just had some cash. And when he gave me the money, his hands were shaking like this. This guy was 55 years old. He looked like he was 80. The tremendous distraughtness. And you know what? Changed his life. Got rid of all the restaurants and made the company replace them with all new restaurants and give him millions of dollars. And thanks to me, that man would call me literally almost every day of his life to thank me. And he didn't lose his home, and he was able to put his kids back in college. And you know what? It's a life changer. And I'm proud of that and don't apologize for it.
The best. Zarco, thank you for that. You know, something I don't think most people know, just the way that you are, like you really fight for people and you love people. Can you just touch a little bit on your background? You know, a family of Cuban immigrants, you literally have worked for everything that you have. Can you just touch on that for our viewers? Because I think that explains a lot in the way that you are.
My family, I was born in Cuba, came to the United States when I was 2 years old with my family. My father, my mother, my brother, who was 6 years old at the time, who's currently a wonderful ophthalmologist and eye surgeon here in South Florida, Dr. Isidoro Zarco. And my sister was born here in the States. She's 7 years younger, but we had no money. Came from Cuba, I think it was $500 for a family of four. And then my grandmother and grandfather came. Then my father had to help. So my father was a CPA in Cuba, and my mom was a pharmacist. And when they came to this country, they had no license to be a CPA and no license to be a pharmacist. So my father took on 3 jobs, and I'll never forget it. He was working for 70 cents and 80 cents an hour. And he worked 18 hours a day. And he did it for 18 or 20 years. Obviously, his salary didn't stay at 80 cents. He started as a factory worker, and he got promoted to be a production supervisor. And I saw how hard my parents were working. My mom was taking care of the kids, and then she got a job at a nursery, the daycare where I was at with her. So she became a teacher at the daycare. And then eventually she decided that, she really wanted to go back to her love. And she was able to get her license, pharmacist license, renewed about 32 years ago through a special program that they offered people that had a pharmaceutical license for Cuba. And anyway, she became a pharmacist and was the director of pharmacy for South Shore Hospital that no longer exists for about 35 years. I saw the work ethic of my mom and dad, but I was always the kind of guy that liked the better things in life, even when I was a kid. But I felt bad. I felt bad that I would actually burden my parents with having to buy me the nicer clothes or the nicer shoes because my father could not afford it. And we were very, very modest. So I decided I was going to start a business.
And how old were you when you started that business?
I was 7 years old, and I was going to start a landscape business. I figured, it's great to start a landscape business. The problem is you need a lawnmower. I didn't have a lawnmower. But my neighbor across the street, who was 12 years old, had a lawnmower. So I went up to him and I said, hey, how would you like to get into business with me? He goes, what does that mean? 12 years old. Remember, I'm 7. But I don't know why, I just knew. And he goes, well, how do I do that? I said, this is what we do. I charge $3 to mow a lawn. I take $1. You take $1. And then I will use your lawnmower for $1. Every yard, your lawnmower gets $1. The lawnmower is not a person. It doesn't spend money. I said, yeah, but when the lawnmower breaks, you're not going to take the money out of your piggy bank to fix it. And I don't want to take it out of my piggy bank. Modern day depreciation. And the arrangement I had with him with the lawnmower, modern day leasing. That's what happened. So I was very good at it. Very, very good at it. And within about 8 to 10 months, I had made about, I forgot, it was like $400. It was like a lot of money. It was like a lot of money. So I said, this is ridiculous, because every time we go mow a lawn, he would sit there and watch while I'm the guy hustling back and forth. And I had a lawnmower that had 18 inches wide. And it's very important that it was 18 inches wide, because that determined how many times I go up and back on the yard to see how many times I have to do a swath in order to finish the yard. So after about 10 months, my father and I go to a Grand Union here in Northwest 37th Avenue and 7th Street. And when you go to the supermarkets, you go to Home Depot, they have the promotional items up front. One day they're selling a barbecue, another day they're selling an air conditioner, another day they're selling a fan. Well, that day they were selling a lawnmower. And there was a lawnmower that it was bright blue with a white Briggs & Stratton 3.5 horsepower engine that would start with a winding as opposed to pulling. And the most significant thing that attracted my eyes at the age of 8 was at 22 inches wide. And I knew at that time that 22 inches was 20% more than 18 inches. And I knew that those extra 4 inches would allow me to mow the lawn. Doing 80% of the work would generate 100% of the revenue. But this one also had for $10 a grass catcher. So now instead of charging $3, I was charging $4, but I had no longer a partner. I then hired my brother. My brother then came with me. So instead of making $1, I was now making $4, which I knew at the age of 8 was a 400% increase in profitability. Well, this went on and on and on. And by the time I was 18 years old, I had actually saved in the bank over $52,000. Now imagine what $52,000 was 45 years ago. If you do the numbers on calculation, you're looking about over $1.5 million. And then I bought a condo, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in a place called Paradise Isles on Eastern Shores, on the water, swimming pool, and I rented it out. So I became a real estate landowner at the age of 18. Then I went to Harvard. While my apartment is renting out, I am a security guard for the museums. I clean toilets, and no one cleans a toilet better than I do. I can clean a toilet. And if you don't believe it, she did it with me. Okay? And as a result, I just kept saving money and amassing money and learning business. And I would buy something here and I would buy something there. And then when I graduated from Harvard, I went to work for General Motors in New York. I was a financial analyst for General Motors. After going through a 1-year executive training program at General Motors, I became a financial analyst, all about numbers, because I told them when I interviewed with them that I was not going to accept the job as I had major offers from major companies. And I said, I'm not coming to you unless you put me on the track to become the chairman of the board. And why are you laughing? Somebody's got to do it. Might as well be me. Let's start training now. So they put me on this fast track that I literally got 12 promotions in 18 months. 12 promotions in 18 months. I was on a major fast track. And then I left. I left General Motors. Oh, I was getting my MBA during the time that I was working at General Motors. I was going in the evening, Pace University Graduate School of Business. And when I was 95% into the MBA, I had 2 more classes to take. I quit to go to law school because of the timing of for me to take the other 5 credits, I have to wait another year of law school, and I didn't want to. And there was this major problem at General Motors at the time with anti-Semitism. And being a Cuban Jew, I was not about to tolerate working for a company or giving them my brain for them to promote what I thought was social injustice. So I left and became a lawyer, and here we are.
Best in the game changer, Robert Zarco, fighter of the people. Thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do and for spending all this time with us and for your partnership and friendship.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you need anything from me, you and Kamal and anyone that works at Out Living can count on me. You're a great organization. You really do a lot to help small business people and people that are very sophisticated and people that have done very well, because you give us all an opportunity to interact with each other and network with each other and get to know each other. Plus, you provide us with access to information that we otherwise would not have if it would not be for the services that you and Kamal and your company provide. So for that, I thank you for being able to be a privileged partner of Out Living.
Thank you, Zarco. Wishing you and your team a great rest of the weekend ahead and start to next week in 2020 and all great things.
And to you, April, and anyone else who's participating and viewing this, this webinar, I hope you got something out of it. All I can say, guys, is stay positive, be happy, live, love, learn, and laugh. That's how I live by, and you'll see that life will take you in wonderful directions. Just always stay positive and have hope.
Zarco, for our viewers that want to contact you directly, what's the best way for them to do that?
Zarco Law, www.zarcolaw.com. You can get all my information. My office number is 305-374-5418. And my email is R for Robert, Zarco at zarcolaw.com. Zarco@zarcolaw.com.
Zarco, thank you again.
By the way, if you call, I do take the calls. I'm not an exception system, but I mean, I will respond to your call personally.
Best in the game.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zarco.
Thank you.
See you soon.